This is Your Place's Call. You are listening to Theatrical Thoughts. I'm Emily Wyra.
And I'm Jessica Fight.
And today we are joined by Broadway's Charity Dawson. Charity is best known for her performance as Becky and originating in Waitress and originating the role of Nurse Norma in that show. And Charity is now originating the role of Wanda Selner in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Charity, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's so great to be here with you guys.
We are so excited. We were just talking a little bit before we started to record, but Jesse and I both saw you in Waitress a couple years back. And like I said, my parents and I still talk about it. Like, you're seriously incredible.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. That was a really great experience to do that show.
And we will definitely be talking a little bit more about that. But first off, Jesse, you want to?
Yeah, so if you've listened to our show before, you know we start each episode with 60-second life stories. So Emily will hold up a timer and just tell us your life in 60 seconds.
There's a timer.
There's a timer.
Okay, all right.
My good old iPhone stopwatch. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right.
I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, moved to Detroit, Michigan when I was 1. When I was 9, I moved back to Tulsa, Oklahoma. When I was 16, I moved back to Detroit and I went to performing arts high school. That's where I fell in love with acting, with storytelling, but I was only there for a year, moved to Phoenix my senior year of high school. And that's when I did my first musical, which was The Wiz. And I played Eveline and I fell in love. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I went to community college to figure out what I wanted to do. Then I came to New York on a spring break trip with a musical theater troupe, saw Thoroughly Modern Millie, my first Broadway show, and then I realized Broadway was it. Went back home, auditioned for AMTA, got in, moved to New York, grinded it out, still grinding it out, and here we are
today. Amazing. 53 seconds. I'm impressed.
I am too. Clearly. I love games.
By the way.
Right. So performing arts high school before having done a musical, how did that happen?
Well, we moved to Detroit, and we moved back to Detroit, and my cousin went to the Detroit High School for the Fine and Performing Arts. And so we were like, I always sang, my whole family sings, but then we were in dance troupes and stuff in church. And so we were like, yeah, sure, let's go to this audition for that school, me and my sister, and we got in. And I was in the forensics team, which is like college level speech and debate. And there's a category called the multiple, where you take a musical or a play, break it, cut it down to I think about 15 minutes. I could be getting the rules wrong. Don't quote me. About 15 minutes. You have to have you can have a certain number of bodies playing a certain number of characters, but you can't look at each other or touch each other. You can't have sets, props, costumes, but you have to create this world. I saw Ragtime done that way, A Clockwork Orange, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I did the Song of Jacob Zulu, and we won everything, okay, in the competitions. But it made me fall in love with storytelling and crafting a story and a character without relying on and depending on any other external things. So yeah.
That is the coolest thing. And yeah, coming back to the storytelling aspect and stripping theater that way, I think I've seen a couple productions that are kind of like that, and it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So your first show ever then, your first musical was The Wiz. So talk about, what an iconic first show.
Yeah, it was with Valley Youth Theater in Phoenix, Arizona. And a lot of people that have gone through that theater, and we actually did shows together. In that production of The Wiz, Britta Filter, who was a contestant on Drag Race, Emma Stone, who everybody knows, was in that show, Max Crumb, like so many people. Jordan Sparks was one of the like little munchkins, and so yeah, so many people were in that show, but it was great. It was a really good time.
That's beyond cool. So then we're fast forwarding. We're just going to go through the whole timeline now, I guess.
I guess.
So we're fast forwarding. You go to college, and Millie, you said, was your first Broadway show.
Mm-hmm.
How did you end up in the city for that? And I guess you say that's kind of what sparked it. You were like, that's Broadway now.
Yeah, I was in community college, I graduated, and I was like, okay, I was studying sign language because I thought, okay, maybe I want to be an interpreter in the theater, because I love sign language. I picked it up so easily, and I wonder why.
That's what I'm going to be pursuing, which is so funny.
It's storytelling. You have to, in order to communicate, you're really being descriptive, and I really picked it up very easily, and because of that, I believe. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, but for an elective, I was in this musical theater troupe I had auditioned for at the community college, at Mesa Community College. And they brought us to New York on a spring break. And we did audition workshops. We saw 2 Broadway shows and an off-Broadway show, and different workshops and things around the city. And I got to the city, and I told my mom when I got home, it was like I felt my heartbeat sync up. I said, well, wait a minute, there's something about this energy here that feels right. I was a very shy, quiet girl, and everyone, they used to call me Charity the Church Mouse. So everybody's like, how does New York feel right for you? Like, I'm confused. But I got here, and it was like, whoa, okay. And I'm doing the audition workshops, and it was going very well. Got some good feedback, good responses, and went and sat down in that theater and saw Thoroughly Modern Millie and said, well, hold on a minute. This is a real thing. This doesn't just have to be a hobby or something I love. This can be a life and a career. When they told me how much the person doing step touching in the back, like it was making, I said, oh, well, hold on. I gotta try and do that. I had never heard of, that amount of money in my life, At that point, I was like, sign me up. But yeah, so I saw that show, and then I found out AMTA was auditioning, and I went back to Phoenix and I auditioned and I got in. So I said it was New York or bust.
Wow, that's amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience there?
At AMTA?
Yeah.
Oh goodness, yeah. I feel like anything that you go into, you are going to get out of it what you put into it. You know what I mean? And that's with anything across the board. I started a business during this time, and I have to put into it in order to, for it to bear fruit. And so I put a lot, I really, was serious about this, and I had great teachers, and I had a really wonderful time there. I met friends that are still in my life. We're still on a group text, you know what I mean? And I had a blast, and I was just dropped into New York, just like boop, this little just dropped in, and it was a really nice space for me to be, and I felt safe and secure, and so and free to explore and to learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I felt supported by my teachers and the staff and everyone at the school. I felt very supported by them.
That's great. So now fast forward, you ended up making your Broadway debut in Sideshow. So like, what was that audition process like, and how did you find out that you booked the role?
Oh my goodness. So I had met Henry Krieger when I was doing Dreamgirls, a non-union tour of Dreamgirls, and we had met. And so I had gotten a call about or a Facebook message about singing with him and Lilius White, singing, and I'm telling you, the 3 of us at the American Songbook series at Lincoln Center, and I was like, yeah, what am I gonna say? No, like, are you kidding me? So I said, yes, I'll do this. And he's going to be playing the piano. The man who wrote Dreamgirls is going to be playing the piano and singing. And I'm telling you, and then I'm going to come in sometime in the mix, and then Lilius White going to take it home. Like, yeah. So I go and do this, event, and Kayala Settle was in this concert as well. And that was my first time meeting her. And she was just like, you my sister, come on, let's go. And so I was just like, oh, she's cool, okay. Rebecca Luker was there. It was like I felt like, what am I doing in this room? So the director of Sideshow came to see the concert. And after the concert, he's talking with Kayala and talking with Henry because they've been doing Sideshow at La Jolla. And they were saying she had booked Les Mis, so she wasn't going to be able to do it on Broadway or at the Kennedy Center or on Broadway because she was going to go do Les Mis. And they're like, so what are we going to do? Who are we going to get to play this role? Like, what are we going to do without you? And she said, right there, that one right there, that's your fortune teller. And they were like, you know what? Yeah. And a week later, I had an appointment for an audition for Sideshow. So I auditioned, and then I think one more. I think I auditioned twice, and I got the gig. But I had known Henry a bit, and then Kayala, I've got to that's my sister. She was like, yeah, over there. Look no further. So,
2 auditions and bam, that's wild. I mean, I guess connections are everything. That's such a wild kind of origin story. So that was your Broadway debut. So I guess, what was that experience like? Was that like beyond overwhelming? Were you like, I got this?
It was beyond overwhelming. I suffered, and I say suffered because I'm crawling my way out of this pit from like imposter syndrome, where you feel like, not me, I don't belong, I'm not that good, and all of that. And so, having to be like, well, hey, wait a minute, I'm here. I should be here too. I'm here because you asked me to be, and to stand in that confidence. But it was such an amazing team, an amazing group of people to work with, work for. It was so wonderful. We lasted 2 seconds on Broadway, 2.5, but like, and then that was it. And so that was a little heartbreaking, to have that high and then that drop. But that's what can happen in this business, you know what I mean? But we get to do it. So
yeah, absolutely. So I guess, what was your favorite part about that whole experience? Like, what sticks out to you as, I guess, a favorite memory or something of that sort?
I would say the female ensemble dressing room. We had fun down there. Oh my goodness. And just the entire cast and company, the community of that show was so special. It was really something special. But us late, we had a good old time, in that dressing room. We played so much and had a good time together. And those people are still really good friends of mine.
I think it's safe to say that what happens in female ensemble dressing rooms is such kind of magic.
Yeah.
1000%. So now, shifting gears into Waitress, let's talk about being part of an original Broadway company. What was that process like?
Oh, wow. It was, oh goodness. This is blowing my mind. I'm sitting here like, as we go through this, I'm like, oh, this has been a cool experience. It really has, though. I wanted to be, when I was in Sideshow, and Kayala came to the show, and she was doing the workshop of Waitress.
Kayala just keeps coming through.
And let me tell you, she was doing the workshop of Waitress, and she came in, she was like, yeah, I'm doing this workshop for this Sarah Bareilles musical. And I said, pardon me? Like, I was like, Sarah Bareilles is doing a what? Because I adore her, and have for, oh my gosh, so long. She's my favorite. I made the Sideshow dressing room listen to Sarah Bareilles every day because of me and Hannah Shankman. But and so I was like, what is that? Can I come see the little like show y'all are doing, or can I, I just want to be in the same room as this woman. And I was like, can I, if they having auditions, I will step touch in the back. I don't care. Like, what's up? And then I think about a couple weeks later, I had an email for an appointment. So I go in and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. But I first got the Dawn packet. I got the ensemble, the Nurse Norma stuff, and then understudy Dawn. So I was like, okay. So I went up in there. I had my little glasses on. I was biting my nail. Like, I did my best quirky little Dawn that, and when he sees me, that I could muster. Okay. But Pat Goodwin, the casting associate, was like, wonderful job. I'm calling you back. You got the wrong packet. And I said, okay. So then in my callback, I did the Becky stuff and Sarah was in there. And then I think I had one more audition with the director and the producers. And so I think I auditioned 3 times for that. And then we were at ART, and it was really special building Nurse Norma. Like, that was something that I had never done before, playing around, making up little characters and stuff, but on that level, and to the point where now, other people are playing it, and, and a lot of her little things were things that I was just coming up with, you know what I mean? And so that felt really, really cool to be a part of, like, crafting that, that was a really special, special thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So in crafting her, like, what was your creative process? What was going through your mind? Kind of how did you go about crafting this now iconic role?
It's funny because it's not on the paper, you know what I mean? And it's our job as actors to fill up the person, you know what I mean, and really fill out their skin, you know what I mean, you know what I'm saying? And so we had a character exercise that we had to do. We were assigned. I think it was after the first few days, Diane Paulus was like, okay, so character presentations are coming up. These are the rules. These are the stipulations. These are things you need to include in it. Pardon me. You can take us anywhere on site. You can take us outside. You can take us to the bathroom, anywhere, but you just have to. And so I was like, I went back to my apartment and I said, okay, who is she? Who is she? Based on what I know here, who is she? Who do I know that feels right? You know what I mean? What have I experienced or lived or experienced in a nurse or somebody that's a little crunchy, but they mean well, you know what I mean? Like who have I, where can I find that? And it wasn't too much of a stretch, but I was like, oh, her, and and I basically just took a little bit of this and that and a nice heaping of Jennifer Lewis and put it all in a pot and tossed it out there,
That's incredible.
And then you keep playing though too. You keep playing, and as you're rehearsing and previews and you keep playing, some of the lines that are now like written in the script were, me mumbling under my breath, and the microphone, my mic was up and it caught it, and it's like, oh, write that down. But that's the magic of what we do, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So out of town, what was that whole experience like, bringing the show out of town with everything changing so quickly as one does out of town? And I guess how did Nurse Norma sort of shift through that process?
Doing it out of town was interesting because I knew I was like learning Becky like from the very beginning as well, because they told me from the beginning there was a chance I would go on at ART, and I did for 5 shows for one weekend, and so it was interesting trying to really like, I was like, you're going to have to deliver that, but you have to give your complete self to your role as well, and to crafting this person. Nurse Norma grew and grew and grew and grew and grew and grew and grew, from ART to Broadway and through Broadway, and as long as I played her, because there was so much freedom in the role, I always loved playing with her. The show changing a lot was very interesting to experience that. I had experienced it a bit with Sideshow, but the technical and the things, it was pretty much, and it was a revival. So that thing was written. It was like, they were like, we're cutting this here or there, here and there, but for the most part, it remained the same. They flipped songs around. They said, okay, this scene is going to go here now, and that's what you get to do when you're building a show from the ground up. They get to play with the puzzle pieces and say, because you're still deciding what the picture looks like, what it's going to be. So it did change quite a bit. And like some songs, Door Number 3 was there before, and now it's What Becky Can Do, which are both magnificent songs, like in their own right, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was very interesting, making those shifts in cast, in a little bit of tone, and with the choreography changing, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So after out of town tryout previews, what were your emotions like on opening night when you finally opened and you're like, all our hard work, like it paid off? Like, what was that like?
It's spectacular. There's nothing like an opening night. You all know there's nothing like an opening night. And let me tell you something. It's never different. That same magic and that same, it still feels the same as an opening night of The Wiz, or like when I did Once Upon a Mattress, playing the minstrel. Why? I don't know, but I did. In high school. But like, and so it's the same. Everybody's giving out their little cards. The excitement, circling up on stage, and and sharing that energy. It's the same. It's the same magic, and the audience is there to give you that, all that love, and it was really, really special.
I can't wait for that feeling. I miss it.
We need Broadway to come back.
Yeah.
All of it, absolutely. So then fast forward, and you eventually do take over the role of Becky, which I can never stop gushing about.
And Emily and I can say that we both saw her as Becky and are obsessed with that performance.
So what was the experience like of taking over that role, and how did you get into the right mental space to sing that beast of a role every night?
Whoa, it was like, wow. But I actually think, did I have more downtime as Becky because I was in the ensemble? You know what I mean? And the ensemble is moving that show around. You know what I mean? And so the ensemble is like a huge part of everything. And I was going back and forth from Nurse Norma to ensemble, Nurse Norma into the ensemble. So I had a lot of running and some quick changes and things like that. But switching over to Becky was very interesting, because every time I went on for Kayala, I say it was on a 2-show day and I went on in a matinee, I would be like, oh, is she coming back tonight? I was like, this thing is hard. This is tiring. You know what I mean? Because she's such a fire like energy. You know what I mean? Nurse Norma sits back like this, and Becky sits back like this, but she's leaning into you as well. And so it was definitely a test in that stamina and building that up. But you have to build that up in any role that you're doing. You have to build up the stamina for what you're doing. So I had to I had to keep reaching for that. But I feel like I got there, kind of comfortably. And Becky, like I said, it had been I had been working on it from the first day of rehearsal. The first day of rehearsal at ART, Kayala couldn't be there, and Diane likes to do a read through of the script, a read and sing through. And they were like, so she's not going to be there, so we'd like for you to do your Nurse Norma stuff as well as all the Becky stuff as well. And I was like, so in the first day of rehearsal of Waitress, period, I sang, I didn't plan it. You know what I mean? So it was always like in there, you know what I mean? And a big part of my experience was Waitress, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, day one of rehearsal, that's not intimidating.
You know what I'm saying?
So, I guess what was your favorite part about taking on the role of Becky? Like, what made her stand out for you?
Oh, I loved to play with my ladies. You know what I mean? With Jenna and Dawn, I loved that those relationships and getting to play because as Nurse Norma, had I had moments with Jenna and Dr. Pomander. You know what I mean? But with Becky, I had my customers, I had Jenna, Dawn, Cal, old Joe, like, you know what I mean? I was able to play, you know, in a different way, you know what I mean? And getting to know, you know, the everyone who played those roles and, you know, and being able to, get close and, draw into those relationships was really, really special.
Pure magic, like absolute pure magic in those kinds of relationships, for sure. So, I think that's such a huge part of Waitress. I mean, the show itself is kind of talking about these relationships and the impacts of them. So, I guess this show has had such an impact on so many people. Why do you think that is? And why do you think that this show has had such a massive impact on so many people in the way that it has?
Well, I think that Adrian Shelley did a beautiful job with that movie. I mean, it's small and funny and smart and quirky and charming and sweet and heartbreaking and and all things that are just, you don't have to be a certain to understand those things. You know what I mean? I feel like it's, we all can see a bit of ourselves and our loved ones and our friends or frenemies, enemies, whatever in it. I feel like it's just one of those stories that it's just a snapshot of life. You know what I mean? Of the human experience. One side of it or a few different sides of it, and I think it tells it in a beautiful um, approachable way. I feel like it really reaches out to the audience in a way that is accessible. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So it's such a powerful show, and obviously you want to convey these same emotions every night for every audience. So how do you keep it like fresh every night to make sure you give your best performance for everyone?
I mean, it's hard, but it's the gig. That's how. Okay, it really is the gig, and honestly, you know, when you can't do that anymore, then it may be time to, you know what I'm saying, to kind of, back on out and make room for someone, for someone else. I was in Waitress for a long time, and I've had the challenge of, you know, let's dust this girl off again. Who's she today? But I really like, there would be some days where I was like, yo, I know I've been feeling so robotic. I know, I'm so sorry for the last four audiences, my bad. Oh, so I would like just sit down and just write, you know what I mean? Like Becky, like what she did that morning, and make it different. You know what I mean? What happened right before she came in? How many cigarettes she smoked today and why she smoked them? And she's chewing nicotine gum when she comes in that one scene where I'm smacking gum. It's nicotine gum, and she's trying to quit, but and just trying to be specific. Trying to be as specific in this moment as I possibly could, to try to spur myself back to reignite that, like, you kind of gotta, sometimes you gotta rev that engine and you gotta go back to the basics, go back to what you did to create it. And, that thing that you got excited about, well, add something new to the mix, sprinkle something new in there. And not changing it all up. Sometimes you go and it's like, what performance is this? But not doing that, keeping true and staying true to the timing, the beats, the moments, the the story, the emotions you're supposed to be giving your fellow actors the same thing, but really keeping it fresh. That's the gig, you know. It's work. It's work, but that's why I went on tour as well. Because it's different. You know, you're going into a different city, you're getting different audiences, you're going to get different responses. And so it automatically wakens everyone up in the new city. You're automatically getting, you know, you again, because you're in a new environment, you're in a new space, you're in a new, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So what would you say was your favorite part about your tour experience and how that was different from Broadway for you?
I like touring. I do. I do. I do like touring, but I love being home. You know, I love being home. And so, but I do enjoy touring. I enjoy you're kind of just in a bubble. You know what I mean? The gift of touring can also be the curse of touring. Let me say that. Because you're in a bubble and you're just kind of traveling around together, like you're just in this whole like different world, and it's fun. And you're just like, we're going to Disney, let's go to a winery, like, you know, and just doing whatever, exploring, seeing different cities, you know, trying out different foods. And I love traveling and seeing different places and meeting new people, meeting the locals and going to the local spots and meeting locals at the stage door there in their various cities. And you know, it really is like quite an adventure, you know. But you're also in a bubble, and your life is still here and it's going on, and life's still happening, but you're kind of in this bubble, like, what's happening over there? I know that was for me, that's a challenge that I kind of had, like, with those things. And so the gift of it could, for me, was also kind of the curse of it sometimes, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's safe to say that your experiences with Waitress were robust and lengthy. And I mean, the amount that you got to do with that show is just absolutely incredible. You were there for so many years, but you know, things changed. You ended up leaving the show and now you're working on Mrs. Doubtfire. So what was that audition process like, and kind of making that shift from Waitress to Mrs. Doubtfire and all that jazz?
Well, I did not audition for Mrs. Doubtfire. And that's crazy. It's crazy for me to fix these lips and say that. But yeah, I just got an offer to do it. And then it was like, I was like, but that was also a gift and a curse because I then was like, okay, now why am I in here? They're gonna discover it. Like, I didn't prove myself. Now I'm gonna get in here and they're gonna be like, what did we do? And so I had to kind of get through that, you know, that moment of like, hey, whatever you've done up to this point, or somebody recommended me. I think someone was like, have you considered charity, and showed a video of me singing or something, is what I believe happened, the story that I heard. But when I asked someone, and they were like, huh, I don't know. I guess maybe we saw a tape of you singing or something like that. You didn't send in the tape? I said, no. And they were like, well, we saw something of you singing. And we were like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I said, okay, great. Sweet. But it was a really fun experience. You know, it has been great doing Mrs. Doubtfire.
It's insane. So they just like see a tape and they're like, yeah, that's the one. Like, that's so cool.
I was like, huh?
That's
So,
amazing.
so what about your role in that show would you say most stands out to you, and kind of the process of originating a second role now?
Oh my goodness. It's funny because I was still, you know, we were still in the beginning of it, you know, when everything shut down. And I feel like I still have I have learned more about her during this past year. And I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Wanda, you know, I'm like making little notes. But I am excited to go back to it and really dive into her more, you know, and really put that, you know, all of that in her mix a little bit more as well, you know, because if I'm being honest, I was wasting time feeling like I didn't belong there, and not putting my energy into fully, having that space of play. So, word of advice, don't do that. you know and so I love she's a quiet storm, and then she comes out the gate, just there is a surprise that just comes out of nowhere, just like pow, just kicks in like I'm here. Like, and it's great. So I'm so excited to continue to craft and really draw that thing.
Absolutely. So since you said that you've been making notes throughout the year, so like what about the pandemic has taught you, made you realize things that you want to bring to Mrs. Doubtfire when Broadway returns?
I feel like I like tried to keep myself from like playing a certain way because I didn't want to be perceived a certain way. And in life in general, as Charity, I am learning to put that down. You know what I mean? And put those weights down. I'm honest, huh? I'm giving y'all all my business. But I'm learning to like put those weights down. And I feel like it's what you have to do, in order to really be able to like do and create without judgment of what you're doing, without judging the person, that you are, playing, you know what I mean? And to really give yourself the freedom to discover the fullness of them, of who they are. And so that having the time to really process those things has helped that, if that answers that question.
Yeah, absolutely. So besides kind of putting in the time to reflect on Doubtfire, what else have you kind of been up to during the pandemic? I mean, you mentioned you started a business, so I'm curious what has kind of kept you busy.
I started a business.
Just casual.
Yeah, casual indeed. Oh, and this is a result of it. I've been trying to hide my arm, but I burnt myself cooking. This was from
No.
steam. This is a steam burn, like coming from a pot. It's an occupational hazard. But I a few years ago changed the way I ate, and I'm pescatarian, but I eat mainly vegan. It's because I don't eat any land animals or dairy. But I've been during when everything shut down, I was just trying to like it was just therapy, just cooking and trying out vegan recipes and let me see what I can make, just recreating stuff, just like crying into a pot, like when are we coming back? Like, and so my friends and my neighbors, like I have a friend who lives downstairs and friends who live around the corner and upstairs and pardon me, they were like they would come try the food. I'm like, hey, I cooked. Like, hey, yeah, okay, I'll come try it. They coming over, eating, and then they're like, what? Okay, what is this? this is not vegan. And I was like, yeah, it's vegan. And a friend said, you have to sell this. You have to sell this. Like, this is people would buy this. I would go to a restaurant and get this. And I was like, really? No, imposter syndrome again. No, I can't cook. And I'm like, you just ate that and liked the taste, and your hands made it, so you can cook. And so I was like, okay. So I was like, I'll do a dinner party. So I did a dinner party. And it was a brunch. And out the gate, I'd never done anything like this before. I did a 6-course vegan brunch with cocktails for 12 people. And so I was like, I had a panic attack in the kitchen. I was just like, what did I do? I'm never doing this again. I was like, oh, I'm not capable of doing this. It's too much pressure. But I was like, put your head down, focus, and just do it. I got through it. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna plan another one. I did another one. And then I felt like it was a lot of time in between the dinner parties and people were wanting the food. So I took on the challenge in December of doing weekly meals. And so I put up a menu every week, and then people get their orders in by Thursday, and then they'll pick up their food on Friday. I go into Times Square to meet them. I package it up in like to-go bags, and I sell drinks and meals, and it's all vegan, soul food and comfort food. It's called Who Trying to Get a Plate? Because I thought that was catchy. But yeah, it's been going well. It's been keeping me busy. It keeps me creative. It keeps me, active in different ways. I'm doing another dinner party actually on Saturday. I have my next one. It's a 5-course this time, and I'm really excited about it. It's been going well. I just did an interview. Had some great footage with that. So, pivoting, in a different way, and I'm excited to have being able to like diversify myself a bit more.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Emily and I will be coming into the city to get that. So
I was just gonna say, I need to try this. That's amazing. I'm trying to go more vegetarian, so this is exciting to know about.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you're finding like ways to express yourself also outside of the arts. I mean, like culinary arts, but that's really, really cool to find this kind of new way of expression, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So kind of closing out, we like to close the show out on this kind of note, but what would you say is a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self, and why would that be something important for younger Charity to know?
Oh, y'all want all my business. I'm joking. Well, okay, I'm not stripping for you, but I'm gonna just show you this. I have right here tattooed enough. And I like this font because it's like blank enough, like fill in the blank. You are good enough. You are beautiful enough. You are smart enough. You are talented enough. You are, whatever enough. You know what I mean? You're funny enough. You're enough. You can be in this room. You can hold space. And I hold it. I was such a shy, just like I told you, they call me Charity the Church Mouse. I had a back brace and glasses, and you know what I mean? It was just, and I was scared of everything, practically my own shadow. And I always felt so small, and I put this on myself as a reminder to tell myself, you're enough. My screen on my phone is actually me as a kid. It's me as a little girl, because I needed to keep reminding her, I need to look at her and say, my sweet, you're doing good, you're doing good, beloved. You know what I'm saying? You're enough. You're good. You're safe. You're whole. You're fun. You're wonderful. And because I just spent too much time in life and in my career allowing those negative things, those things to kind of push me down, and for me to not even explore the full breadth of my gifts, even, saying, oh, I can't hit that note. What you talking about? You better get up there, girl, reach on a little higher. You know what I mean? But all these things, oh, I can't, oh, that's not, I can't. No, you can, and you are enough. And if you believe it, you will, So that's what I would tell her.
That's beautiful. And that's a sentiment that I'm going to keep in my back pocket too. I think that that's a really fantastic way to end this episode. Charity, this has been beyond amazing. It's so cool to get to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time today. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And to connect with Charity on Instagram, follow @Charity Angél Dawson, where you can keep up to date on her latest projects. Be sure to follow Theatrical Thoughts @Theatrical Thoughts Podcast on Instagram as well.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.